whenever you're free.
All right. Well, JV, thank you for being here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. This is actually straight from our website, so you probably saw it. Um, you see, you're able to see, right? It says program pillars.
Yep.
Okay. So this is actually part of the link that you saw in the main room. These are the six pillars that CUNY BMI. Oh, there we go. Starting to get some new people highlighting. Welcome. Um,
Hi. Yeah,
so
they just said that we could go in. It was like a little confusing for a second. And they were like, oh, you can click and go in, they'll let you in. So we should get more people.
okay, great. All right. Well, if I have to repeat myself, it's not a problem. Um, so Jorge Alguera, assistant director, university assistant director to the CUNY Black Male Initiative. And one of the things that I kind of need to clarify is, although it's called the CUNY Black Male Initiative, it's actually open to anyone who is an enrolled student within CUNY. We do have programs that serve students who may not be enrolled into a degree program, and those are the HEC or GED programs that I mentioned before. Usually for students who had previous involvement with the law and they're re-entering society, to put it that way. But also we have just high school equivalency programs at Bronx Community College and Medgar Evers. And some of the things that all of the programs offer is a peer mentoring component. Depending on the campus that you might be enrolled in or attending, there might be a one-on-one, 1 to 2, 1 to 5, or even 1 to 10 ratio of mentor to mentees. And the purpose really is to make sure that a student uh, is not in the process alone, right? We've all heard it. Oh, once you're in college, you're there by yourself and no one cares, right? So the CUNY Black Male Initiative, what it does, it offers that sense of community. Um, Unlike many of the programs that you heard before, like for example, Seek or even ASAP or college discovery, you don't need, there's no residency requirement, or at least no legal residency requirement. So I know a lot of the students that we serve may be undocumented, documented, and some of the things that we do is we continue to show, or we continue to support our directors in helping those students, right? And so um, each program, and obviously a lot of things may have shifted because of COVID and because of the virtual nature of college now. Um, but there are academic enhancements. So a lot of the programs have group or individual academic coaches instead of tutors, because we also understand that when students hear a tutor, they start thinking, "Oh, I'm deficient at something," as opposed to a coach, where someone building me up to get better at something that I'm already good at. And so, as you see here, the pillars are social emotional programming, which is done both at the central level and at the campus level. So on the central level, what we started doing last semester was having town halls, and they grew to now we just call it CUNY BMI dialogues, and it's once a month we have a meeting, a live stream meeting through YouTube, where professionals and students talk to students or whoever decides to tune in about some of the topics that are prevalent or that are at the forefront in society. So a lot of it may have been socio emotional, just the component, a year ago with the passing of Kobe Bryant, and then everything that kind of continued to spiral downward. A lot of our students just didn't know where to turn, and so our programs are designed to support them, right? Like, where do I turn to when I'm feeling this way? Awareness in their own emotions. And then at the academic settings, before we were able to, so a lot of the mentors and a lot of the graduating students will leave their textbooks behind, and then the students will be able to rely on that as well. It's a little bit more difficult now, but some students are still able to get that kind of assistance from mentors and mentees or the community, the BMI community at large. The mentoring component is usually an upperclassman to an underclassman, and the to be a mentor, there's criteria. Um, we don't look at it as something that limits people, but it's kind of like so that we understand that the mentor giving the services to the mentee is also not putting themselves in academic peril, right? So you must have at least a 2.9 GPA when you're looking to enter as a mentor, and you should have been part of your campus project for at least one semester, which means so a lot of times we have students who graduate at the 2-year level, go into the 4-year school, and then themselves need one semester to kind of get situated in where are certain things on campus or who do they need to reach out, and then they themselves become a mentor because they are academically sufficient, right? And so it's just a minute kind of, I like to think it's something minute, right? To just get your bearings, and then we can get you going. The mentors receive a stipend at the end of each semester. It could range between $300 and $1,000 depending on the campus, because it depends on the amount of students that they're mentoring each time. As I mentioned before, we're in every single campus, so we have two projects, one at the law school and one at the Sophie Davis School of Medicine. And so we've had students, and some of our success stories are a student who came in and got his GED or HSE, and then enrolled, got their associate's degree, and then they went to a 4-year school within CUNY, and they were part of that BMI program as well. And then they got their 4-year school, and then finally they're getting their master's or a professional degree, and all while being part of the CUNY Black Male Initiative project at that campus. I myself am part of the CUNY Pipeline to Justice program, which is our law school program that assists. We're trying to diversify the law profession, so it assists. It's a pre-law school, so you start with preparation with LSAT all the way into preparation into the law school, and then you have mentors while you're in the law school. So I'm currently a part-time 1L student there, and not only am I promoting the services, but I'm also kind of like seeing how it really works. I would have been lost my first semester in law school without my mentor, but these are just kind of our pillars: diversity recruitment. What can I move this? And also on this is all on our website. You can see here, but if you click on campus projects, it should open up. Then you have the list of every single one. So if you have a student that's going to Brooklyn College, you click on here, and you see there are Brooklyn College actually has 3 different programs. So you have the BLMI, this is for the enrolled student, and then you have your BC Bound, which is HSC to degree, so on and so forth, right? So if you, on the link that you received ahead of time, you can go and explore, but we have all the projects there. Also, let me click on here, our home button. If you have a student that's already enrolled, or you know that they'll start next semester, you can have them come to the main page and click on the BMI interest form. This form comes directly to me, and so I'm able to connect them. I engage them, and I'm able to connect them to the project director at a specific campus. One of the things that I've noticed is that, if you just tell a student, hey, go do this, on the way to that office or on the way to send that email, they might, so much information coming that I try to just make sure I'm walking them door to door. And then you'll also see some of the events that we have. But now I like to take some questions. I'm sure there are some. Yeah, I'm going to stop my share.
So if you have questions, feel free to just unmute yourself. I think we're an intimate enough group where we can just unmute ourselves and just ask.
Hello, Jorge. Thank you. I'm Lenny. I work as the director of college career and future planning at City Polytechnic High School, which is a career and technical ed school. Also, a CUNY early college school with City Tech. And I'm curious about 80% of our students are boys. Of those, about 75% identify as Black or African American boys, or Latino boys. I, I'm curious what kinds of programs exist at all partnering with high schools, or like are there any ways to bridge your students with current high school students? Are those students looking for ways to give back? How can we connect? And then also, like, what resources would you recommend for an educator? You know, I'm going to be real. Like, I worked at another school for 10 years, and it was like mostly girls, and I mean, like in our ninth grade class, we had like one Black boy. It
Mhm.
was that messed up, right? The equity pipeline was like that skewed. It was a very highly selective school. So now I'm at City Poly. It's the complete opposite. And I really, as an educator, want to make sure that I'm showing up for our students in the best way I can,
Mhm.
and acknowledging the differences. So I guess I'm curious, are there resources that BMI has or would recommend to educators?
Mhm.
So are there pipelines for connecting to high schools, and are there resources that you would recommend for educators to become um, like more than competent, right? In showing up for young men, and particularly Black and brown young men.
Great, sure. Thank you for that. So the first part of your question, um, with COVID and us being virtual, it's become harder. It was already difficult to connect students or to have students participate with high schools. One of the initiatives that we did have, it was the Discover BMI, and we're currently working on how to transition that to a virtual environment. But usually, what it would mean is a group of students could come onto campus, and they would get a more intimate campus tour, if you will, that not only connects or shows what the particular campus has, but it will directly connect them to the BMI project. So that way, when or if they decided to come to that particular school, then they would say, "Oh, I already know this person, or I already have a connection to this campus." Um, right now, the best way to kind of do that is if you have the students, or I'm going to put it again here on chat. I'm going to put my email, so that you can contact me directly, and then we can see how either we can have a director, a campus director, and some students meet with you virtually. In a way, that's also good because it avoids, or it kind of um, facilitates this being at two places at once. And so those are just kind of like the best way to connect students. I don't know if you have felt this, but I have definitely felt this, that even with the virtual environment, it feels like there's more on top of us, right? We have to fill a little bit more gaps onto
Yes.
what students need to have, or how do we maintain, the social I guess, just void that we have, kind of. If you're an empath, you kind of feel like, all right, so my students are suffering from some of these things, and so we feel like we're, just as we feel like more is asked of us, a lot of our students are feeling that same way, and so we're trying to still figure that out. um, there's no particular plan right now for the university as a whole to go back in person, and so we're trying to partner with as many programs and schools so that we can have someone show up virtually. What I will kind of, as far as the resources, right, for educators, if you go to our YouTube page, if you just go YouTube and search CUNY BMI, we have a playlist of our town halls, and our town halls were conversations that we had last semester, and they kind of touched different points. So the first one that we like when we really kind of came together was the United States of our mental health, feelings, fears, and futures. So there's conversations with professionals. We're talking about psychologists and doctors and so on. And so there were just different topics and different books that they themselves touch on during those conversations. One of the books that I personally recommend to everybody is a book by Dr. Chris Emden called "For White Folk Who Teach in the Hood and the Rest of Y'all Too." A great resource. He has another book coming out. I think it's called Ratchetdemics. I think it's in pre-order right now. But those are just some of the resources. I'm currently reading. I don't know if I can do a little plug right here. To everybody, White Fragility is an amazing book, because it just it kind of ties everything together. If you're in a space, especially, I'm Latino, but I also understand that because of my light skin, I have white privilege, right? And so um, a lot of these things kind of overlap, no matter your ethnic background. And so those are just some of the resources that I've been kind of tapping myself uh,
Thank
slightly.
you.
Yeah,
Appreciate that very much, deeply.
sure. I see, Jesse. I don't know. I didn't see you come in at the beginning, but if you had any questions, if you missed anything from the beginning of the presentation. And also, Lenny, I'd like to say that our BMI project at City Tech is will definitely be one of those that kind of will nurture the students.
Yeah, I have no connection. I asked about that when I first started with our ECI contact. I said, what does BMI do at City Tech in particular? And like, I didn't. Yeah, so I that's why I wanted to show up to this session partly.
Yeah,
So if you have a contact or anybody, I'm gonna reach out to you. So
yeah,
we'll make a time.
yeah.
But also if you ever, I don't know if you're a part of CACNY.
No,
It's a College Access Consortium of New York. It's a really, for anybody else who's not part of this, it's been around for like 25 years. It's amazing college access and college success professionals. So people who are working on making sure students not just get in, but like retain and graduate
yeah.
and fixing the leaky pipeline. And we meet once a month, but there's also a listserv that's really amazing.
Uh,
And I cannot recommend it highly enough in terms of connecting to educators who are working on both the high school side and the college side to show up for young people and like specifically the young people that BMI serves. So I cannot say that highly enough.
Great, thank you. Yeah, definitely. We try to be in as many places as possible.
Yeah.
At the central office is just two of us, and so we rely on a lot of our campus directors to connect with students because they're essentially on the ground, right? They're the ones who know what students are asking for, and so but definitely thank you for that. Hi, Erica. I see. Did you come in a little bit?
Hey, I did come in a little bit later.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for the information. I did have a few questions. I work for the John Jay Immigrant Student Success Center. So we support a lot of undocumented high school students with college access and their post-secondary plans. And I was wondering, I know you mentioned that mentors are trained and to support undocumented students. Do you know how those trainings usually go, or do you know the type of support they really do give students who are part of this cohort?
Right. So the mentors themselves are not trained on this because we understand. So I myself, I'm a DACA recipient, right? So I graduated, I went through the CUNY system as an undocumented student. So I understand that a lot of us don't want to tell another student, hey, by the way, I'm undocumented, or hey, this, that, and third. but our directors are the ones who are trained in some of this. So a lot of it has to do with just letting the directors know about the Dream Act, right? The New York State Dream Act. Just kind of teaching ways of how to connect with some of these students, giving them access to other scholarships, to other ways of kind of connecting the undocumented students with some resources. We understand that one of the biggest problems or the biggest gaps, or however you want to categorize it, for undocumented students is how do we pay for school, right? And um, believe it or not, a lot of just CUNY professionals as a whole, right, not just our BMI directors, don't understand that as even as an undocumented student, they're able to pay in-state tuition. And so a lot of the retention tools that we have is having a student is like, oh, I have to pay 15K for one semester or for 1 year, whatever the case might be. It's like, no, let's talk. Let's figure some of these things out. But we train our directors to know that a lot of this, or if not all of the conversations, need to kind of begin in a confidential space, and then you can kind of grow it. CUNY has trained a lot of us in as a, it's called Undocu Allies, and so we've given them some training on how to talk to students first from an academic perspective, then a financial perspective, and then the emotional perspective as to how to support them. And each campus is positioned differently. Some BMI projects are are working from the academic division in that program. Some are from the student life perspective, and so we try to kind of expand for all projects to understand. You have your cohort, but then there are cohorts within the cohorts, and so those are just very kind of like broad ways of support.
Okay. All right, thank you. Yeah, that's just really looking forward to connecting some of our students with this program. So I
Yeah.
really want to know like that they, one, if they are paired with a mentor, they're having meaningful conversations surrounding their status, especially if you have like academic cohorts, right? How would you counsel a student around their major? Like how, maybe if they don't have a social security number, how could they access employment afterwards? Like opportunities like that, just those are some things that I really want to know about. Like, I understand the financial aid part of it and everything as a big part of it, but even those like smaller conversations create a bigger impact when creating connections. So I really wanted to know if there was some training like that. And I work at the Immigrant Student Success Center, so maybe we can collaborate on something where we do have those type of conversations with mentors and even with the directors as well, so we can have a greater understanding between supporting undocumented students throughout specific aspects, even academic, student life as well.
Right. I don't know if you were able to see my email before. I put it on chat.
Yeah, I did. I have it right here.
Okay, great. So just shoot me an email and we can connect. You can also reach out to Maria Vidal, who is the director of the BMI project at John Jay. So I think her email is like mvidal@jjc.cuny.edu.
Okay, so we support high school students like in specific different high schools. So it's not really that they're going to John Jay. They're going to be placed at probably different CUNY schools as well.
Okay, so then send me the email and then we can talk about how to best connect a lot of these students. But yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Erica. I'm excited to see y'all connect and stuff. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, that's why we do conferences. Hey,
Love
and then my students can come.
Yeah, great.
I just wanted to say we did at my old school, we did a bunch of really rad trainings for adults and for young people as mentors, and around supporting students with undocumented status, because as you said, Jorge, like the variety of like non-knowledge is so wide, and then you run into one person who says something messed up and it's like it can set you back unless you're like incredibly resilient or like have a lot of resources around that. So
exactly. Yeah, you're exactly right. a lot of it has to do with the employee turnaround, and directors or coordinators or whatever have you may be leaving for better opportunities, and so we just have to be mindful that, especially, I mean, you saw it from with this new administration coming in. There were a whole bunch of things that were kind of like, let's scratch that off and let's try to make it better. There's still a lot more to be done, but the immigration game, let's put it that way, is not steady. It changes. It could change from one day to the next, and so these are the things that we want to make sure that we are connecting with the allies, so that more information is disseminated, and we can support the students in that way.
All
Great.
right, thanks, y'all. I'm gonna head off. It was lovely speaking and hearing you.
Thank you all so much for coming, and great connecting.